Hey, what's going on? Jeff Ratcliffe here. And you know, it's fantasy draft season, so everybody wants to talk about sleepers. Of course, at Pro Football Focus, we have sleeper quarterbacks, sleeper running backs, sleeper wide receivers for you. Right now, let's talk about some sleeper running backs. And we're going to start out in Denver. We have a rookie who could be a big-time sleeper in 2018 leagues, and that's Royce Freeman. Of course, Devontae Booker is there. He's going to need to beat out Booker, but I don't think that's going to be too tough for Freeman. In fact, when we look at what he was able to do at the college level at Oregon, he was prolific, racked up over 5,600 yards, 60 scores on the ground. He was effective after contact, forcing 51 missed tackles, which is an important number we use at Pro Football Focus to gauge how elusive these guys were or are. And Freeman was very elusive at the college level. He's also capable as a receiver. I mean, the guy had 80 catches on 89 targets over the last 4 years. So he can do it all. He can be a three-down back. If he gets into that role, it's going to be hard to see him not scoring fantasy points, at least at the RB2 level. So know the name Royce Freeman. You'll be able to get him nice and cheap in your drafts. Let's go down the list. Let's go to Green Bay. Jamal Williams. Now, this name is a little more obvious than it was, say, a couple months ago, because Aaron Jones will be suspended for the first 2 games of the season. However, this hasn't pushed up Jamal Williams' ADP that much. You can still likely get him in a 12-team league round about the 8th round, possibly even later, but I think 8th round is about right with Jamal Williams. What do you get with Williams, though? Because we saw a bit of, well, really 3 running backs for the Packers last year. We saw Jones. We know he has upside. We saw Ty Montgomery. We know he's really a tweener, a hybrid player, probably better suited to being a receiver out of the backfield, not necessarily going to run between the tackles. And we saw Williams as well. Williams, out of the 3, probably best suited for that role between the tackles. That's exactly what he did at BYU. He's a grinder. He's a guy who you get 20 carries to, who becomes potentially more effective as he wears down the defense through the course of the game. And when you think about it for fantasy value, it's all about touches. Williams set up to touch the ball the most in the Packers' backfield. It's an explosive offense. Aaron Rodgers under center. That means a lot of fantasy points potentially there for Jamal Williams. And again, just like Freeman, you don't have to pay a premium price on draft day for Jamal Williams. The next name, coming off injury, that's Deonte Foreman, Houston Texans. This one was tough last year. If you happen to have Foreman, he was a rookie coming off a 2,000-yard season at the college level, but a rookie last year in the midst of a breakout, not only in the midst of a breakout stretch, in the midst of a breakout game, long touchdown run, and tears his Achilles. Absolutely brutal. This is why we can't have nice things. Absolutely brutal for Foreman, but you see the smile on my face because the future is still bright for Foreman, and there are good things coming. Now, the big question, I guess 2 big questions, really. First and foremost, how is he with the injury? He may not be ready by week 1. That is a possibility, and that's fine. You're not drafting him for week 1. Remember, you don't win your fantasy championship in week 1. You win it in week 16. You got to get there, but you win it in week 16. So we're looking at this as a long-term play with Foreman. The other question here is, well, what about Lamar Miller? I know you're probably asking yourself that. The thing about Miller, he's 27 years old, which in ordinary human terms is very young, but in football terms, at the running back position, 27 is starting to get old. In fact, that's the year where we start to see a decline. And in fact, with Miller, the decline already happened. Last year, declining efficiencies, 3.7 yards per carry. That's probably the biggest number in decline. And that is a cause for concern for Miller. So he may open the season as the Texans starter, but is he going to hold that job? If Foreman is breathing down his neck, is he going to hold that job? And I don't think he does. So for me, the play with Foreman is if you're drafting him, know that you're stashing him. You're going to stash him probably for a month, maybe even longer. Or don't draft him. Let somebody else draft him because they're probably going to get frustrated and drop him after the first couple weeks. Then you go and pick him up. One more sleeper for you. We're going to really deep on the final sleeper running back. We're going to go to the Indianapolis Colts, and that's Jordan Wilkins. All right, I know. Marlin Mack. Everybody loves Marlin Mack. And Marlin Mack, on paper, is the lead back in this backfield, but I'm not convinced that Marlin Mack is the guy. And you have to read the tea leaves sometimes. Sometimes the NFL just tells you a story without directly saying it. And here's the story that we're being told here indirectly by the Colts. The Colts may not necessarily believe in Marlin Mack. And again, nobody has said that publicly. You're just reading the tea leaves. And here's why I think that. They drafted 2 running backs. They drafted Nyheim Hines and they drafted Jordan Wilkins. And, well, there's only 7 rounds of the draft, and, most teams have 7 or so picks. So when you're spending 2 of those on running back, you probably think you need to address the position. And, of course, every team needs depth. But when you look at who they drafted, this makes a lot of sense. So I'm not convinced on Marlin Mack. Jordan Wilkins, coming out of Ole Miss, so he played in the SEC, looks the part of an NFL running back, 6'1", 217. Very impressive, 6.3 per carry over the course of his career. And what I like the most about Wilkins, he is not a dynamic guy, by the way. Go back and look at his tape. Not a dynamic guy, but that's fine. You don't need to be a dynamic guy to be a producer, because he was very effective after contact, 3.3 yards after contact per attempt in 2017. And that's a number that we use at PFF to gauge how effective these guys are independent of their blocking. And Wilkins was pretty darn good at it. That was 11th among draft-eligible backs. When you look at how he plays, 2 players come to mind, Matt Forte and Arian Foster. Now, I am not saying Jordan Wilkins is the next coming of Matt Forte or Arian Foster. But what I am saying is he has a similar playing style. He's a glider. He's not a slasher. He's not a dynamic home run hitting guy. But he is a guy who kind of looks the part and could step in and be a surprise fantasy producer even as early as this year. And let's not forget, the Colts have Andrew Luck, hopefully, under center for them this year. Who's your sleeper running back? Anybody not on this list? Give us a comment. Let us know who you got as your sleeper running back for 2018. And of course, for all of your fantasy football needs, go check out ProFootballFocus.com.